Picture this. It's May 1925, Paris, France. 5 of the city's wealthiest scrap metal dealers receive mysterious exclusive invitations to a confidential meeting at the prestigious Hôtel de Crillon, one of the most luxurious hotels in Paris. The invitations are printed on official-looking government letterhead. The message is intriguing: a private discussion about a major government contract, highly confidential, don't tell anyone. The dealers arrive at the hotel, curious and excited. They're shown to a private suite where a distinguished man in an expensive suit greets them. He introduces himself as Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. His name? Victor Lustig. And he's about to pull off one of the most audacious cons in history. He tells them the French government has a problem. The Eiffel Tower, Paris's most iconic landmark, is falling apart. It's too expensive to maintain. The government has made a difficult decision. They're going to tear it down and sell it for scrap metal. But this is politically sensitive. If the public finds out too early, there will be outrage. So the government needs to handle this discreetly. They're looking for a scrap dealer to buy the Eiffel Tower quietly, quickly, before anyone notices. The dealers are stunned. The Eiffel Tower, for sale? It seems impossible, but Victor Lustig is completely convincing. He has official documents, government stamps, he knows intimate details about government operations, and most importantly, he makes it seem exclusive. Only these 5 dealers have been invited. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Within days, Victor Lustig will sell the Eiffel Tower to one of these dealers for a fortune, and then he'll disappear. The dealer will realize he's been conned, but he'll be too embarrassed to report it to police. And Victor? He'll be so confident, so audacious, that he'll come back to Paris 6 months later and sell the Eiffel Tower again, to a different buyer, using the exact same con. This is the story of Victor Lustig, the man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice, conned Al Capone, fooled banks across America, and became one of the greatest con artists in history. And the craziest part, he almost got away with all of it. Let me take you back to the beginning. Victor Lustig was born in 1890 in what is now the Czech Republic. From a young age he was brilliant, intelligent, charming, sophisticated. He spoke 5 languages fluently: Czech, German, French, Italian, and English. He could adapt to any situation, any social class. He could be a wealthy businessman, a government official, a count, whatever the con required. But Victor didn't want to work a normal job. That was boring. He wanted excitement, luxury, the thrill of outsmarting people. So he became a con artist, and not just any con artist, the best. He studied psychology, human nature, greed. He understood that people want to believe. They want to think they're getting a special deal, an inside opportunity. All you have to do is give them a good story and appeal to their greed. Victor started small, card games on transatlantic ocean liners, targeting wealthy passengers. He was so good at reading people that he could tell within minutes who was vulnerable, who had money, who could be manipulated. He'd befriend them, gain their trust, then fleece them in rigged card games or fake investment schemes. But Victor wanted bigger scores, and in the 1920s, he saw his opportunity: the Eiffel Tower. Here's what you need to understand about the Eiffel Tower in 1925. Today it's one of the most beloved landmarks in the world. But in 1925 many Parisians hated it. It was built in 1889 for the World's Fair, and was only supposed to be temporary. It was supposed to be torn down after 20 years, but it stayed up because it was useful for radio transmission. By 1925 the tower was rusting, maintenance was expensive, there were legitimate debates in newspapers about whether France should keep it or tear it down. Victor Lustig read these articles and thought, this is perfect. If people are already talking about tearing down the tower, they'll believe the government is secretly planning to do it. So Victor creates his masterpiece con. He gets fake government letterhead printed. He rents an expensive suite at Hôtel de Crillon, one of the fanciest hotels in Paris. He dresses impeccably in expensive suits. He cultivates an air of authority and importance. And then he selects his targets, the 5 biggest scrap metal dealers in Paris. Why scrap metal dealers? Because they're the ones who would actually buy and dismantle the Eiffel Tower if it were being torn down. They have the money, the equipment, the expertise, and most importantly, they're businessmen. They think in terms of profit. If Victor can convince them this is a legitimate business opportunity, their greed will do the rest. The meeting at Hôtel de Crillon is perfect. Victor plays his role flawlessly. He's official, serious, bureaucratic. He explains the situation. The government needs to sell the tower, but it must be done quietly. There will be a bidding process, but it's informal. The dealer who makes the best offer and can keep this confidential will get the contract. The dealers are suspicious at first. This seems too good to be true, but Victor has prepared for this. He takes them on a tour of the Eiffel Tower in a government car. He shows them documents with official stamps. He knows details about the tower's construction, its weight 7,000 tons of iron, its dimensions. He's done his homework. Everything looks legitimate. And then Victor does something genius. He pulls one dealer aside, a man named André Poisson. Poisson is newer to Paris, eager to make a name for himself, insecure about his status. Victor sees this, and he appeals to it. Victor takes Poisson aside and speaks quietly, confidentially. He says, I need to be honest with you. As a government official, I don't make much money, but I'm in a position to influence who gets this contract. If you were to help me out financially, I could make sure you win the bid. This is brilliant, because now Victor isn't just selling the Eiffel Tower, he's asking for a bribe, and paradoxically, this makes the con more believable. Because real government officials do take bribes, this corrupt request actually validates that Victor is who he claims to be. Poisson thinks, this is how it works. He's a corrupt official. This is actually happening. The bribe doesn't make him suspicious, it makes him trust Victor more. Poisson agrees. He pays Victor a huge sum, both for the rights to the Eiffel Tower and for the bribe. We're talking hundreds of thousands of francs, equivalent to millions today. Victor takes the money, gives Poisson fake documents, and tells him wait a few weeks, then the government will contact you with the details. And then Victor Lustig leaves Paris. Immediately, he takes the next train to Vienna with his fortune. Poisson waits. Days pass, then weeks. He starts to get nervous. He tries to contact the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. They've never heard of Victor Lustig. There's no plan to tear down the Eiffel Tower. There's no sale. Poisson has been conned. He's lost everything. But here's the beautiful part of Victor's plan. Poisson is too embarrassed to go to the police. Think about it. He'd have to admit, I tried to bribe a government official to get an illegal deal to buy the Eiffel Tower, and I got scammed. He'd look like a fool. He'd possibly face prosecution for attempted bribery. His reputation would be destroyed. So Poisson stays quiet. He eats the loss. He tells no one. And Victor Lustig gets away clean. Victor is now in Vienna, counting his money, and then he reads the French newspapers. He's checking to see if there's any news about his con, any police reports, any mention of the Eiffel Tower scam. Nothing. Complete silence. And Victor realizes, Poisson didn't report it, which means Victor could do it again. Most con artists would never try the same con twice in the same city. It's too risky. But Victor isn't most con artists. He's audacious, fearless, and he's seen that his con is perfect. The victim won't report it. 6 months later, Victor returns to Paris. He sets up the exact same conic, different hotel, but the same basic plan. He contacts 5 new scrap metal dealers. He uses the same government letterhead, the same story, the same pitch. And it works again. Another dealer falls for it, pays Victor another fortune. Victor disappears again. But this time, the victim does go to the police. Maybe he's less embarrassed. Maybe he's more angry, but he reports it. The police investigate. They realize what happened. They issue a warrant for Victor Lustig's arrest. But Victor is long gone. He's already left Europe. He's moved to America, where the real opportunities are. In America, Victor Lustig becomes a legend. He runs dozens of cons. He's so successful, so prolific that he becomes known as Count Victor Lustig, a title he made up, but one that people believe because he carries himself like nobility. One of his most famous American cons involves Al Capone. Yes, that Al Capone, the Chicago gangster, the mobster who killed people for looking at him wrong. Victor approaches Capone with an investment opportunity. He needs $50,000 for 2 months to invest in a business deal. He promises to double Capone's money. Capone, curious about this smooth-talking stranger, gives him the money. Victor takes the $50,000 and keeps it in a safe deposit box. He doesn't invest it. He just waits 2 months. Then he goes back to Capone, looking defeated. He says, I'm so sorry. The deal fell through. I lost everything. But here's your $50,000 back. I made sure to keep it separate so I could return it. I feel terrible. Capone is shocked. In his world, nobody returns money. If you lose a mobster's money, you die. But Victor returned it. This guy must be honest, must be trustworthy. Capone is so impressed that he gives Victor $5,000 as a thank you for his honesty, which was Victor's plan all along. He never intended to steal Capone's $50,000 that would get him killed. Instead, he created a situation where Capone would voluntarily give him $5,000 as a reward for honesty. Brilliant. Victor also invents the money box scam, one of the most famous cons in history. He sells people a wooden box that supposedly uses special chemicals to duplicate dollar bills. He demonstrates it, put a real $100 bill in the box, add the special paper, apply the chemical solution, wait 6 hours and out comes two identical $100 bills. It's completely fake, of course. The box is rigged. Victor has preloaded it with duplicate bills, but the demonstration is so convincing that people pay thousands of dollars for the box. By the time they realize it doesn't work, Victor is long gone. For years, Victor operates across America. He cheats banks, businessmen, even other criminals. He's charming, sophisticated, always one step ahead. He lives in luxury hotels, wears expensive clothes, travels first class. He's living the dream. But in 1935, Victor's luck runs out. The U.S. Secret Service has been tracking him for years. They've connected him to dozens of cons, and finally they catch him. He's arrested for counterfeiting. He'd started printing fake money, which was a federal crime. Victor is convicted and sentenced to 20 years in Alcatraz, the maximum security prison on an island in San Francisco Bay, the same prison where Al Capone ends up. Even in prison, Victor tries to con people. He befriends guards, runs small scams, tries to manipulate the system, but he's trapped, and as the years pass, his health deteriorates. In 1947, he dies in prison of pneumonia. He's 57 years old. Victor Lustig's life is over, but his legend lives on, because what he did, selling the Eiffel Tower twice, is so audacious, so perfectly executed, that it's become the gold standard for con artistry. Think about what he accomplished. He convinced multiple intelligent, successful businessmen that France was secretly tearing down its most famous landmark. He made them believe he was a government official with the authority to sell it. He even got them to bribe him, which made the con more believable. And he did it twice. The same Canada, the same city, 6 months apart. That takes unbelievable confidence. Most criminals play it safe, stay in the shadows. Victor walked into the most luxurious hotel in Paris, pretended to be a government official, and sold the Eiffel Tower, twice. What made Victor so successful? A few things. First, he understood psychology. He knew people want to believe they're getting a special deal. He knew greed makes people ignore red flags. He knew that if you ask someone to keep a secret, they feel special, important, part of something exclusive. Second, he was a perfectionist. Every detail of his cons was planned. The letterhead looked official. His suits were expensive. His knowledge of government operations was accurate. He never improvised. He prepared obsessively. Third, he was fearless. After successfully selling the Eiffel Tower once, most con artists would disappear forever. But Victor came back and did it again. That's not greed. That's confidence bordering on arrogance. Fourth, he understood that people trust corruption. When he asked Poisson for a bribe, Poisson didn't get suspicious. He got reassured. Because corrupt officials are real. That little moment of asking for a bribe sold the entire con. And finally, Victor understood his victims. He didn't target poor people or vulnerable individuals. He targeted wealthy businessmen, people whose greed outweighed their caution, people who had enough money that they could take big risks for big rewards. The Eiffel Tower con is studied in psychology classes, business schools, even law enforcement training. It's a masterclass in manipulation, planning, and understanding human nature. But there's a darker lesson here too. Victor died in prison. For all his brilliance, for all his successful cons, he ended up in Alcatraz and died broke and forgotten. His skills, his intelligence, they could have made him successful in legitimate business. But he chose crime, and crime eventually caught up with him. Today, tourists visit the Eiffel Tower and take photos completely unaware that in 1925 a con artist sold it twice. The French government doesn't advertise this story. It's embarrassing, but it happened. It's documented. Police reports, newspaper articles, court records all confirm it. Victor Lustig sold something he didn't own to people who should have known better and got away with it twice. That's not just crime, that's art. Terrible, illegal, unethical art, but art nonetheless. And somewhere, in the history books, in the criminal records, in the stories told in bars and business schools, Victor Lustig is smiling. Because he pulled off the impossible. He sold the Eiffel Tower twice. And he almost got away with it.